Egotastic FunTime.
Hey gang, I'm JP and welcome back to Talking The Orville on Egotastic FunTime. Today we're gonna have a great time talking about the entire fate of humanity being put on the line when two Mocklins aboard the Orville are discovered to be harboring a juicy secret. Bortus finding himself caught between two worlds when confronted with what happened to his own son last season in About a Girl, and Captain Mercer having to work with the Admiralty to find a diplomatic solution to keeping the Union together in the fight against the Kalon. In an episode directed by Jonathan Frakes, guest starring Marina Sirtis, Tony Todd, and F. Murray Abraham, to name a few, the crew of the Orville faced the almost impossible challenge of finding a balance between the needs of the many and the needs of the few. In the Orville, Season 2, Episode 12, Sanctuary. In Sanctuary, the Orville take aboard two Mocklin scientists, Torin and Korik, who have managed to smuggle precious cargo onto the ship undetected. Meanwhile, Topa gets in trouble for shoving his classmate, Olivia.
Hey! Topa, no! We do not shove people! Olivia, you okay?
It's quite apparent where his blatant disrespect for the opposite sex is coming from. Clyden. When the Orville discovers a huge power drain coming from the Mocklin scientists' quarters, they send Bortus in to investigate, where he then finds out exactly what they smuggled on board. Ah, Mocklin girl baby, you guys. Ah.
She is our daughter. I beg you not to report this. Our child will be taken from us. We love her just as she is.
Bortus agrees to keep their secret because he still regrets Topa being forced to have the surgery when she was born, because the Mocklin government sucks. After finding out that they had an unauthorized passenger aboard the ship, thanks to Topa and Clyden being snitches, Ed has the Orville follow their Mocklin guests' trail, which leads them straight into a nebula containing a hidden sanctuary with thousands of escaped Mocklin females being led by Havina, who we last saw at Bortus and Clyden's baby junk trial on Mocklus. Being that the colonists are considered fugitives by their homeworld, Ed convinces Havina to go with him to Union Central to have an application hearing as an independent state, thus granting the colony Union protection. On their way to Earth while the Orville stays behind to protect the colony, Havina gets introduced to the new voice for female Mocklin independence.
She speaks with the might of 100 soldiers.
Yeah, I guess she does.
During the hearing, with delegates from various Union planets in attendance, the chairman begins to introduce Havina to make her case, but Dojin stands up to object, allowing a woman to speak. But Admiral Halsey ain't having it, you guys.
You'll get your turn to talk, Dojin. For now, sit down and listen.
Havina makes her case to the council as a voice for the voiceless, and ends her speech quoting her new favorite Earth poet.
Working 9 to 5 for service and devotion. You would think that I would deserve a fair promotion.
After Havina's compelling cry for independence, Dojin warns that Mocklus will renounce its membership with the Union if the colony is admitted in. Back at the Nebula, the Orville is approached by a Mocklin vessel ready to round up the colonists, assuming their application is denied. Still hoping to come to a diplomatic solution, Captain Mercer tries to convince the admirals to grant Union entry to the colony and to stop looking past distasteful Mocklin customs.
Why don't we just call this like it is? The Union turns a blind eye to Mocklin custom because we need their weapons.
Despite an agreement not yet being made, the Mocklin battlecruiser begins sending shuttles down to round up colonists and warns the Orville to stay out of their way. Admiral Halsey demands that Dojin orders his troops to stand down, but he refuses. Ed orders Kelly to stand down, but unofficially says she can go ahead and work on her tan. Kelly and Bortus leave Tala in charge while they go down to the sanctuary to teach some punk-ass Mocklins the meaning of working 9 to 5.
Working 9 to 5 for quite a way to make a living, barely getting by. Let's all get
Tala and the crew find themselves in a dogfight, trying to keep the battlecruiser at bay until the council comes to a decision. Mercer and Halsey come up with a temporary solution to keep Mocklus in the Union. In a, well, this isn't great, but this is the best we can do right now, compromise. And Bortus finds Topa back in class, not being such a jerk to the ladies anymore. And now that he's woke as F, he's ready for Clyden to shut his stupid face and go live on an island in the stream somewhere because he's a jerk.
Islands in the stream.
is what we are. No one in between. How can we be wrong?
What? Are you kidding me right now, you guys? Is this real life? Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, all the admirals, all the Union delegates, the fate of the Union at stake. Truth, justice, the American way. The Orville universe is growing. World building with number 1 and Deanna Troi? Yes, please. Sanctuary was another humdinger of an episode, you guys. Season 2 of the Orville has really switched gears from last season. For me, the thing that sets the Orville apart from other sci-fi shows, besides it successfully giving us an optimistic utopian vision of humanity's future, are the characters. I've always said that the Orville is a ship that I would like to serve on. I feel like I would belong there and would get along well with the crew, even more so than the Enterprise crew or Voyager. Being that I'm a total smoke show, I'd probably just end up being one of Quark's Dabo girls on DS9. Don't judge me. But I really appreciate the character studies this season. We know so much more about Claire, and Isaac, Alara, Gordon, Bortus, and Clyden than ever before. Seth MacFarlane has really doubled down on the Mocklins in Season 2, sometimes as the main story, and sometimes as the B plot. Lots of people have commented that it's a little too Mocklin heavy, which is understandable. There's been a lot of Mocklin stuff, but personally, I like Bortus episodes because just like with TNG using data episodes to better understand what it means to be human, the Orville uses Mocklins to remind us how far humanity has come. At this point, we practically know more about Bortus than we do Ed or Kelly, and I love that we finally get a follow-up to last season's About a Girl, where Topa is forced by the Mocklin Tribunal to have reassignment surgery to make her male. In that episode, the crew discovered a female Mocklin, Havina, and had her testify to show that Mocklin females actually do exist, but she was unable to change any Mocklin minds, and Topa was given the surgery anyway against Bortus's wishes. In Primal Urges, which was originally supposed to be part of the first season, we learned that Bortus resents Clyden for Topa's procedure, and he's been self-medicating by getting injections at a gross holographic sex lagoon. We also learned this season that Clyden is a crotchety old bigot stuck in his ways who wants everybody to get off his lawn. He's a murderer, a hater, a snitch, and worst of all, a smoker. I've been on Clyden's side this whole time because I understand that he's a product of his upbringing, and I've been holding on to hope that we'd start seeing signs of his point of view finally changing, that he'd have opened his mind and learned something from his experiences aboard the ship, just like Bortus did. But the Orville likes to throw out a lot of truth bombs when it's dealing with this type of social commentary. The likely scenario is that a person that indoctrinated in their culture wouldn't change their mind due to their experiences. Don't forget that Clyden was born female and is grateful that he had the corrective surgery. His views are even more skewed than a typical Mocklin. He didn't find out that he was born female until he was an adult with his prejudices already set in place. So he feels he dodged a huge bullet, and his subconscious is definitely overcompensating to reinforce his belief system. Boom! Nailed it! So I just don't know if Clyden is capable of being saved, but the show brings up a fair point. Who are we to judge Mocklin culture, or the culture of any other species for that matter? Which is another thought exercise that good sci-fi like this is always great at presenting. From Mocklis's point of view, the colonists are stealing infants from their homeworld. They consider it child trafficking. I learned all about child trafficking from the Lifetime channel. From another point of view, aka everyone else's point of view, the colonists are refugees escaping oppression and forced reassignment surgery, which does hold parallels to things that go on in the world today. It's a fair question though, who are we to judge? But I'm with Ed on this one. We're part of a union with certain core values. Why would we put up with customs that go against everything the union is supposed to stand for? How long should they turn a blind eye to what they would consider atrocities and crimes against humanity if it happened on Earth, just so they can get bigger and better guns? Sanctuary is brilliantly and deeply layered with so many different issues that are relevant today. Not only with gender biases, you guys, but learned behavior, self-hatred, people's rights to be free, prejudices, the governmental machine turning a blind eye to suffering in the name of national security. The list goes on and on. But one thing the Orville is great at is bringing up these ideas, but not being one-sided or preachy about it. So good job, show. Captain Mercer brings up a good point that it's ridiculous for the entire Union to rely so heavily on one planet to make weapons. That just doesn't make sense. If you didn't recognize him in the episode, Dojin, the woman-hating Moclan delegate, was played by Tony Todd, who is no stranger to sci-fi and especially no stranger to Star Trek, playing Worf's brother Kern in TNG, older Jake Sisko in DS9, and the Alpha Hirogen in Voyager, just to name a few. He also played Admiral Ramirez in the short film Prelude to Axanar, which takes place in the Star Trek canon universe, where he also showed off his superior making a speech at a podium skills.
I do not fear the Klingon Empire!
Going back to Klyden, while I don't think we'll be getting any Moclan stories again until next season, I don't see how Klyden can stay. He's a bad influence on Topa, and there's no way Bortus is going to want to stay with him if he doesn't change his antiquated views. He didn't even say hello to Kelly. To Kelly! Also, even with all his offenses this season, I think it's pretty lame that he snitched on Bortus without talking to him first. Right there, Bortus should have been like,
"Oh, hell to the no, Klyden. You want to do me dirty like that? Stay right there while I go and get my divorce dagger, bitch."
We've seen no nuggets of improvement from Klyden, so I don't see how this is gonna work out. Let me know how you think the Bortus and Klyden situation is gonna end without everybody getting stabbed, because I'm all out of ideas. Did Klyden learn nothing from the plight of Rudolph and his mission to save Christmas? I was able to figure out weeks ago that Sanctuary had something to do with female Moclans, but I had no idea it was going to be on this scale. Havina said the colony had over 6,000 people in it, and she also confirmed something we've assumed was going on since the beginning of last season, that there are many more Moclan females born than the government is willing to admit, and there's some sort of cover-up going on. Bortus told Topa that only a few girls are born every generation, but it turns out there are tons more than that, and they're all just forced to have a corrective surgery right away as soon as they're born. Many of us assumed that there was some sort of conspiracy going on, and this proves that we were right. I'm guessing that the Moclans evolved to being able to have children with or without the opposite sex. In a previous episode, Bortus mentioned that Moclus was so desolate that they evolved to digest almost anything. So if things were that bad way back in the day, I could totally see the males of that earlier civilization trying to wipe out the physically weaker part of the population. It's backwards and inexcusable, but I could see it happening. Then, as a culture, they just learned to keep perpetuating the lie of female Moclans being rarely born until it just became part of their belief system, which also addresses the idea of just because everyone believes something is true doesn't mean that it's true. Thankfully, more and more people from all around the globe are beginning to learn the truth that the Earth is actually flat, like all around the globe. The Orville has been world building like a mofo this season, and I'm extremely happy that Seth MacFarlane decided to bring Marina Sirtis into that world. We've known for a while that Marina would be making an appearance in Jonathan Frakes' episode, but we had no idea just what role she would play. When going over audition tapes for the role, Frakes suggested to Seth that Marina would be perfect. Seth had another role in mind for her, but went with Frakes' suggestion because he's Jonathan Frakes. He's number one. You do what he says. They both ended up texting her at the same time to offer her the part, and she came in the next day for the costume fitting. Little did she know that she'd also be filming her scenes that same day. So within 24 hours of accepting the role, she was on set filming. Marina's character is only known as school teacher right now, but I see no reason why she can't turn up in future episodes, being that she's technically a permanent member of the crew now. When it comes to fans of the show, it seems like not everyone was feeling Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 song playing over that big fight sequence at the end. I thought it was the greatest thing ever, and it's one of the things that makes the Orville stand out to me. But I get it, some people are going to find those references out of place. That's fine, to each their own. We all have our own opinions, even though your opinion is wrong. Because I freaking loved it when Kelly and Bortus go down to the planet and start laying down the hurt. 9 to 5 started playing, and I almost stood up cheering, you guys. I thought it was an incredibly badass scene. Then it cuts between the planet and the Orville in a dogfight with that Moclan battlecruiser. By the way, these are huge ships, but Gordon is able to fly around with crazy precision. What the Orville lacks in weaponry, it regains with its ability to hug donkeys like nobody's business. How nice was it that when Kelly put Tala in charge of the bridge that she just did it? There was no hesitation in her own abilities. She just went over there, sat down, took charge, and said, hey, let's open up a can of whoop ass on these Moclan fools. In case you didn't know, Tala's a badass. There's been so much Moclan stuff going on this season that I knew it was going to lead to some big standoff at some point. Ed has said it over and over again. How long are we going to put up with Moclan behavior? Their core values are in direct opposition to the Unions. This episode was the culmination of everything we've experienced so far with the Moclans, okay? Sure, we need their weapons, but at what cost? I'm really thinking this is all leading to a Moclan civil war, because even though Admiral Halsey was able to get the Moclans to leave the colony alone as long as they shut down their outer space railroad, one, it's not right. We can't allow them to oppress a portion of their population, and two, F the Moclans. You can't trust them to keep their word. They didn't even wait for the hearing to be over before they tried to round up the colonists. I'm guessing once the rest of the Moclans learn that the government has been lying to them about the female Moclan birth rate this whole time, that people are going to be upset and start taking sides. Havina's revolution is going to spread, and a movement will take root next season. Mark my words. Sanctuary was directed by Hot Pants Jonathan Frakes, with music composed by Andrew Cotty. It was written by Joe Minoski, who you might remember for penning a little episode of The Next Generation called Darmok. But alas, Shaka, no walls fell in this episode. Jaloja, his fly opened wide. Ron Canada, Victor Garber, Kelly Hu, and Ted Danson played the Planetary Union admirals. Sean T. Andrews was Torin. Reggie Davis played Korik, and Rena Owen reprised her role from last season as Havina. Besides the chairman, the other Chilean delegate was played by Mark McLean Wilson. Madeline Grace is Olivia, and Topa is played by Blessin Yates. No idea where John Lamar was in this episode. Probably off somewhere being awesome with women. The Moclan baby, Mursa, that was hanging out in a stasis suitcase the entire time, is actually a prop made by Brian Rogers. Oh my god. What the fuck? With such a large cast of characters, costume designer Joseph Porro and special makeup artist Howard Berger and their teams had their hands full with this episode. The song 9 to 5 was also used during a fight scene last year in Deadpool 2, because Dolly Parton speaks with the might of 100 soldiers. The council was flush with different alien delegates from all over the Union, including the Chilean chairman played by F. Murray Abraham, who you might remember as Ruafo from Star Trek Insurrection. We could also see Derulio's people, the Retepsians, represented. Luranek from Command Performance, his people were there. The Orville cocktail waitress's people, some Jelly, Knut's people, Olix's people, the Romulans, and a bunch of other weirdos who were also there. Sanctuary is the last episode this season before part 1 of the finale begins to air. This episode gave me the feels. Stories dealing with injustices always get my blood boiling. Antiquated ways of thinking makes me sad. The idea of all those Moclan children being forced to have a procedure to hide who they are made my heart cry out. And Bortus and Kelly popping off caps while Dolly Parton sings in the background made me squeal. The Clyden situation is a bit messy though. Clyden isn't going to leave Topa with Bortus, and Bortus isn't going to let Topa grow up to be indoctrinated with hate on Moclus. They can't get a divorce without getting all stabby. The only situation I can see is if Clyden gets some serious therapy and starts to make some changes. It's either that or we're just gonna have to throw his ass out the airlock.
Bye, Felicia.
Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about today, and I talked about it. How about you? Do you think a Moclan civil war will be coming our way next season? Assuming there is a next season. Hashtag renew the Orville. Is it possible for Clyden to let go of his prejudices and become less of a dick for a damn minute? Or are we gonna have to cut him loose at some point? What do you think are the chances of seeing Marina Sirtis turn up on the Orville again? Though I would think twice before letting her drive the ship. Boom. You can let me know what you think by joining the conversation below. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and supporting my stupid show. It really does mean the world to me. I'll see you very soon, and as always, I hope all your times are egotastic fun times. Love you, bye-bye!
Egotastic fun time, we're gonna have a great time. Egotastic fun time, give me all your money. Give him all your money. You will find it funny. Just give me money. I love money. Give me all your 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 money.